One of the biggest violations, and probably the biggest violation of the Eighth Amendment that I'm aware of in this country today, is the sentencing of Ross Ulbricht. He was sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years in prison without chance of parole for crimes that he committed in front of a computer screen. He created a website and facilitated the anonymous exchange of money. And people did break the law. They bought and sold drugs on that website, and people went to prison. But nobody went to prison for as long as Russ has gone to prison. The people, the person who was sentenced the most for crimes using his website, I think got 10 years. There's a grave miscarriage of justice here in this case. I'm hoping that the president will grant Ross clemency. Clemency is different from a pardon. Of course, we'd like to have a pardon, but Ross isn't saying that he didn't break any laws. What we're saying is the young man has spent 7 years in prison. There are people who commit murder who haven't spent as much time in prison as Ross has. He spent 7 years in prison. He will spend his life in prison if the president doesn't do something right now. And, you know, what the government chose to do, they tried to make an example of Ross because they were fearful of what he was facilitating, which was free commerce. And at the time, they were really fearful of Bitcoin. They were trying to outlaw Bitcoin. And fortunately, Bitcoin took off before they could get that thing under control. But here's one of the casualties of their early war on Bitcoin and on the internet was Ross Ulbricht, and I'm hoping we see clemency in these final days from the president.